been a few months since I last made a video talking about teaching, what I'm doing with my life, all those fun things. If you've seen my last video, you may know that I am pregnant. I'm expecting a baby. I'm well into my second trimester now. I thought I would answer some of the questions that I've had. Today, I thought I would talk about what is supply teaching like in Scotland. I have been doing supply teaching since about December, very much as and when it comes, which is something I'll talk about in our pros and cons section. I was full-time doing my probation year to qualify. In Scotland, you do a probation year or you can do a flexible route to be a fully qualified teacher. I was doing my probation year and nah, that's it for me. At least I don't want to teach full-time. Ever since I've been doing some supply teaching and growing a child. So let's talk about how do you get into this. You need to have done a degree which makes you qualified. Undergraduate or postgraduate degree in education. Not all teaching degrees give you qualified teacher status. Double check, don't be a criminal. You have to hold a PVG, like in England it's a DBS check. But how do you actually do it? This changes according to the council area that you are working in. A lot of councils you have to interview to get on supply and then you get added within a pool of teachers that can do supply. In the council that I was doing it, I didn't need to interview. In some places I know it's a lot trickier, like Glasgow and Edinburgh. It can be really hard to even get into supply teaching pool, let alone get a full-time job there. For anyone that's interested in coming to Scotland to teach, there are no jobs in Scotland. If you're wanting to become a full-time teacher in Scotland, probably you're gonna have to end up doing some supply teaching first to get to grips with the curriculum, because it's a different curriculum up here, then apply for jobs after that. Everyone's ripping their hair out at the state of teaching in Scotland. If you can get into the supply pool, you now need to think of what is expected. Generally in your contract, it will say that you need to be on site within a timely manner or some kind of criteria. Generally, I will plan to be there for about an hour to half an hour before the school day starts to about half an hour to an hour after the school day. It all comes down to marking and planning. So what's expected? A lot of people think that supply teachers come in and just teach whatever the teacher's planned. It's very 50-50. A lot of the time there is some work set. That can be tricky because it might be a rough plan. If they know that they're going to be off in advance, generally they will have something planned, including resources. However, most of the time that you go in, it's probably because a teacher's off sick. Email the office and ask them whether you are required to come up with a plan. It is a job that's have to wing it a lot. You need to be very adaptable and flexible. A lot of the time you'll come in, you know that you need to cover area and there are no resources for area, or you don't know where their books are. Something will probably be going wrong. Your job is to be able to cope with the stress of not knowing where anything is or what's going on. Come with something in your mind. It's my backup lesson in case I have no idea what I'm meant to be doing. The third thing to expect is behaviour management. I have had my fair share of goods and bads. Often kids will be excited to have a supply teacher and they'll want to get to know you, especially in primary school. But sometimes they want to take you for a ride a little bit. I've only had 1 or 2 days where behaviour management has been tricky, and that is purely because children involved in that class have been SEN children. They've had extra needs, for example, autism. This is something that is probably going to be the biggest challenge for you as a supply teacher, because you're coming in, you don't know the kids, you don't know the behaviour, and most importantly, you don't know the triggers. Come in having an understanding of, speak to the head teacher when you come in about what the needs are of the class and individuals, if there are any triggers, if there are plans set in place in case things go wrong. Ultimately, it's about the safety of yourself and the children more than anything. What else is expected? You need to be able to work with anyone in the school. You need to be able to work and adapt from the teacher's plans, but it also means that you need to be able to change your plans according to whatever's going to happen in the school. I've had other classes come in and say, we've got song practice today, and I'm like, I wasn't told. Guess what? You're going to end up singing songs with about 2 year groups all at once, singing Kumbaya, and you're in charge. Something else that's expected is that you have to mark work. I'll stay for as long as it takes to mark, and I will always leave a note on the teacher's desk summing up how the day went and how they did with their work. I will summarise marking feedback as well. I had a lot of people asking about money. This really does depend on where you are in a pay scale. I was a probation teacher when I came in, so I was bottom of the barrel. I was at the very minimum pay grade. The yearly rate divided by the day, it was like £120 or something per day. The more experience you have teaching, the more expensive you're going to be as a supply teacher. I actually typed in onto ChatGPT, how much money does a supply teacher earn in Scotland? And it said £25,000. Let me tell you, I have not earned £25,000 this year. Nowhere near it. Work is not consistent enough. I have recently moved, and since moving into this area, I've been here for about a month, I've had 1 day's work. 1 day's work. I still work within the same council area. Before I moved here, I worked on the west coast. I would get job offers frequently. I think I could probably have worked on average about 3, maybe 4 days a week. I've not had that since moving here. It also comes down to your connections. They're gonna call on you before they go to the general pool of supply teachers. It's about experience, who you know, and how much you work. Pros and cons. As you've worked out, there's probably quite a lot of pros and probably quite a lot of cons. Biggest pro, the work-life balance. Being a teacher, especially a full-time teacher, is really, really hard. There's so much that comes with the job that you do not even get told about. You don't know that you have to do until you have to do it. It can be pretty toxic sometimes. I go in with 1 day's worth of content, if I even have to plan at all. A big stress on a full-time teacher, there's a lot of pressure on you to make sure that you have work covered in case you're off. As a supply teacher, I really would not want any full-time teachers stressing about covering for supply, because we go in and we're expected to be able to plan and wing it. Another pro is that you don't have to stay the long hours. I don't have meetings, I don't have to write reports. So much that just gets taken away when you can do supply. Another massive, massive benefit is that it gets you access into so many different schools. This is really important if you're not sure where you want to work, what type of school you want to go for. A lot of the schools I went into, I felt like I would love to work here. Although I don't want to be a teacher, it's a really nice feeling because it makes me feel like it's not just me. It's not me that's the issue. Going into different schools gets you a lot of experience, and this is really, really important when it comes to applying for a full-time teaching job. Cons. Consistency of work and therefore money. Teaching jobs in Scotland are very, very hard to find. Even supply work, it can be gone up like that. The first person to respond or first person to say yes gets the job. If you're busy and you don't respond straight away, you've lost that day. Biggest con is money. I'd only ever recommend to someone if they want to be very flexible. Another con is behaviour. You go into a classroom that has children with complex needs that you're not aware of, it can be traumatizing for not only you but also the child. Another con is that a lot of the time, even if I've got work that's been planned for me, you're not really sure where things are or what the plan quite means. Often you have to diverge a little bit away from the plan and come up with something yourself. That leads me on to top tips. Have a bank of ideas of lessons that you could do with anyone. Even if the work's planned for you, have a backup lesson just in case. Number 2, be prepared. I have a bag that I take with me. It's got a few textbooks in with lesson activities, worksheets that I can photocopy. It's got a pen drive which has got lesson ideas and resources on. Have a pen drive because, at least in Scotland, the internet doesn't always work, and if you've got a pen drive, it means that you can plug it into a photocopier and get your work off. Don't just turn up 10 minutes before the school day starts. I don't think that's very professional. Most of the time when I've come in, there's normally been something where the internet hasn't been working, the printer isn't working, I can't find the paper, I can't log on to the computer. There's nearly always something that goes wrong. Come in early and be prepared. Ask whether you need to plan or not. Another tip, speak to the leadership team, so the head teachers, they can tell you all about the children. So my last tip, when you finish the school day, go and speak to the head teacher or the school receptionist and say what your availability is. Build a relationship and they know that they can trust you. That's been a very thorough rundown about what it's like to be a supply teacher in Scotland. Have any questions? Put them in the comments below. Like, subscribe and comment. If there's anything that you would like me to speak about, do let me know. Until then, I will see you next time. See you later.